built my community and I started being known for doing events. Then I went to day events. And then last year we bought out a whole boutique hotel in Laguna Beach for a VIP private event. So there is a progression. And just because you go to an event that is very elaborate and the stage production is amazing, that's not how you have to do it when you're starting out.
And I think that's what makes it different. I think when you can be thoughtful about my community needs this, or my community would benefit from this, or the people that I am inviting in this room would feel up leveled if I had this element and it aligns with the goals that you have for your event. That's what takes it up a notch, and that's what makes it an experience. Act as if, like, yes, you have this master plan in your head, but the reality is, until you can walk through all of those little baby steps, you can and will miss something. You are less likely when you go through that slower process of, no kidding, my person does not know what's supposed to happen, let me think of it from their perspective and walk it through so that I can figure out if there's something that's missing or something that I can enhance.
I think being seen, you mentioned like at events, making sure that there's no wallflowers. And I feel like I go into every event looking for the wallflowers. Like I love to go sit next to someone whose eyes light up because someone saw them.
Welcome back to the Permission Slip podcast. We are here with another amazing roundtable episode for you. Two of my amazing friends that are both in the event space. So we have Bree Carroll and Kim Garner here. And we are talking about how to take your events from just events to epic experiences, because that's what we really want to provide for people. We want to provide that transformation, that breakthrough, that connection, that learning, whatever it is. It's not just about hosting an in-person event. And we'll get into all of that and why in-person events are so magical. If you're a listener of the podcast, you already know that in-person events are just like so big on my heart. And we're hosting our next in-person event in Bend, Oregon on September 21st. Amplify Your Life World Conference. So attend with your biz bestie, attend with your team, or even attend with your partner, because you know what? There's no more worries about outgrowing your partner, because this event is for men and women. So leaders and entrepreneurs, this is for you. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into this roundtable episode that I know you're going to get so much from. So make sure to get out your pen and paper and download the leader guide afterwards, because it's going to have all of the gems and highlights in there for you as well. So let's kick it off as we always do on the roundtable podcast with just some quick fire questions. So I'll just to go in order of who I see first. And Kim, I see you first. So I will ask you the quick fire questions first, and then we'll go over to Bree. This is just a way for the audience to get to know you personally a little bit before we just jam out on the information that they really want to know about. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
I grew up in the suburbs in North Denver, so Arvada for anyone who's in the Denver area. But yeah,
Okay. My husband and I lived in Colorado Springs for a couple of years, so I
okay.
love, love, love that area. Do you know mutual friend Christine Monroe?
Yeah,
Oh, perfect. Yay. Okay, look, see, there's a connection, Bree.
yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then where do you live now?
Franktown, so southeast of Castle Rock. I'm actually in Colorado Springs at the moment. But yeah, so south, like an hour south of where everyone else I know.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I love that area, Castle Rock. That's such a
Yeah.
cute, like up and coming, trendy area.
Hmm.
So
I
tell
love
us
it.
what you had for breakfast today.
Oh goodness. My husband has been on an omelet kick, and so he made me and the kids all our own little special omelets this morning.
Okay, let's talk about Amazing Husband Award. So does he always
I,
make breakfast? Was it just today or?
he does do the majority of the cooking in our family. He is a Denver fireman, and I think for generally most fire wives say that their husbands do the majority of the cooking. So firemen cook.
Mhm. Hmm.
So
Interesting. I have seen them on Guys Grocery Games before, because I watch Miami Heat games, so basketball and Food Network. And so I have
okay,
seen the firemen cooking on there before.
yeah.
Okay, what was in your omelet?
Oh, eggs, cheese, sun-dried tomatoes, jalapenos, and prosciutto.
Okay, so sun-dried tomatoes, do you prefer the kind that's packed in water or oil? This is a really interesting,
Ooh,
I know, detailed question, but
I honestly don't know that I knew that there was a difference.
okay, yeah. Maybe it's just me being like having a holistic nutritionist background, but when food is too oily, I don't like it on my palate that much. Like I like a little, but
Mm.
not a ton. So anyway,
I would
that sounds
say
delicious.
yeah, I would say I agree with that for oily stuff for sure. But if it was in the omelets, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Yum. He's like a master chef. He should go on Guys Grocery Games. That would be
I didn't
so
even know that was a
cool.
thing. I've never heard of that.
Have you ever watched the Food Network? Do you watch the Food Network very much?
Not really.
Oh, it's so awesome. I'm obsessed with food though, so that's the thing.
I love it.
Okay, tell us one skill that you think everyone should learn, or maybe one skill that we should more often teach our kids.
Ooh, teach our kids. Gosh, honestly, probably cooking because I'm such a terrible cook.
That's so important though.
I feel like they need to know how to cook, and I do not. It's a good thing I married a man that does.
Yeah. And you guys have littles, right?
Yeah, we have littles and bigs. My oldest is an adult, and then my youngest is 9.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. And so, are you teaching your 9-year-old how to cook then, or is he?
She does a pretty good job. Yeah, my honestly, my 20-year-old loves to cook. That girl cooks all the time. So
Cool. I love that so much. Yeah, we taught our kids how to cook. Our kids are 27 and 22. So they both know how to cook and do all the
yeah,
things and like cook from scratch. So,
yeah.
yeah, pretty cool. What about one book, not your own, that you think everyone should read?
You know, you told us that question was coming, and I really racked my brain thinking about it. And I think I just have so many books I like that I really was like, I have to come up with one, and I could not come up with just one.
Just share one then. What is one that you've read over the last, 6 months, year, or recently that you would recommend?
Um, She Works His Way is one that I have been reading, and it is basically about how to do business that looks different than the world would do business. Yeah, I really like that one.
She works his way. So is it about like the feminine movement and then how we started to try to do everything that men were doing, but that's not how our female bodies are made to operate? And so,
No,
no. Oh,
no,
okay.
it's
Give us more insight
actually
then.
how to work um, God's way. Yes,
That part.
the
Okay. I
His
love that.
being God. Yes, yes, yes,
Okay. Okay. I love that.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to check it out. Do you know who the author is?
yeah.
I
Michelle
can see.
Myers and Summer Phoebus.
Okay.
They run a ministry called She Works His Way. They have a podcast. They have all kinds of yeah. It's really cool. I've been following
Mm.
them for years.
We're going to add that to the show notes.
Okay.
So I'm interested in
Yeah.
reading that book as well. Something my husband and I started doing a few years back was reading books together. We usually do like a couple a year, but one that we read last year that was really great to read together was Circle Maker.
Oh, I love that
And
one.
yeah, but reading it with him was even more powerful. It was really solidifying this vision for a life and a legacy that we want to build together. Because sometimes it can feel like you're building separate, especially as an entrepreneur, small business owner, or if you both are doing that or just one, it can seem so separate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But reading it together, it's really great. Well, thank you for answering the quick fire questions. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. And we will turn the mic over to Bree. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, Bree.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello,
I grew
hello.
up in wonderful Paterson, New Jersey. For anyone who does not have context to the state of New Jersey, that's closer to New York. So I am a Jersey girl, city girl, if you will. But now I feel like I've spent so much time in the South. I feel like I am the milder version of what you would get from a city girl with a little like dash of Southern charm. So that's my current existence.
I don't know. You get Bree around some music, and she is like
This
the
is
life of
true.
the party.
This is
She
true.
is my dance partner forever. And then where are you living now?
So currently I am living in Montgomery, Alabama, but guys, don't even try and track me down here because we actually have a PCS, or permanent change of station, because we are an active duty Air Force family coming up this summer. So we will be enjoying the DMV area. So I'm really excited to get a little closer back on, first of all, on the East Coast, but in that Northeast area. And shout out to Kim, because I love the fact that we have the connection of a first responder family and a military family. That's one of the places where my heart absolutely goes out to. So anyone who is joining and listening to our conversation, if you are a part of that community, we love you guys.
I love that you
Absolutely.
said that. And when I think of the round tables and bring people together, God always brings together the right people, the right places, and then the
Yeah.
connections and synchronicities are always so huge. So
Yeah.
So good.
thank you for bringing that up. Well, tell us what you had for breakfast this morning.
So for breakfast, I actually had one of my childhood favorites, with a tweak, because I don't do milk anymore, but I did frosted flakes with sliced bananas and almond milk. And it really does bring me back to my childhood. I don't know why. Cereal is definitely a thing with my kids. And I was just like, after my morning walk, I love to come and just get something kind of quick and easy. And today it just happened to be good old frosted flakes and sliced bananas. So not an omelet, which I was like, ooh, mouth is watering. I need to up my breakfast game for tomorrow, because my typical go-to is like toast and tea. But yeah, I'm going to have to put the omelet in rotation for this week for sure.
Yeah, frosted flakes with bananas. It reminds me of my grandpa, actually. So they had a dairy farm.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have frosted flakes, and then he would be pouring like this heavy cream. I'm unsure at this point if it was pasteurized when I was little or not. It was like probably straight from the cow. And
Probably.
then my grandma, they had these Gravenstein apples outside, so she would always make applesauce. It was the best applesauce, and he would put the applesauce on there with like this cream straight from the cow's teat. Do you call it a teat? I don't know. Might have made that up, but anyway, yeah, it reminds me of that. I love that.
Yes.
Um, Okay, what is one skill you think everyone should learn?
I would say sewing or mending. And so I have three littles. They are 9, 7, and 5, which I had to think really hard because my 5-year-old turned 6 at the end of this month. And when I tell you, between my husband's uniforms, the kids have a hole in their pants, their Hello Kitty doll's bow is falling off. Like, there have been a number of times where just popping out this needle and thread has come through and saved the day. And that's something that, like, my grandmother actually was a seamstress. She worked in like even in a kind of more in a manufacturing type of, she used to do like the interiors for cars and that type of thing. And she also like made her kids clothing, right? And then my mom kind of did that. All of my Halloween costumes were like handmade and with a pattern and all of that type of stuff. And like, I'm the lowest on the totem pole here, where I can give you a good hem, I can mend some holes. I don't have a whole machine or anything like that, but I just think even knowing how to do like a simple stitch, it is kind of like a lost art that I don't see as many people doing. So I think knowing how to sew, thread a needle, like put a button back on, like those little things, I think are still valuable skills for like my littles to learn, and that I would hope people don't go away from, because you'll end up going to like a seamstress and like spending tons of money when you could just like mend something really quickly yourself.
I love that, and I agree so much. I don't have high top-notch sewing skills. Um, but I think even worse than that, going to a business and asking them to fix it, I think people might just get rid of it and buy something new. And I
You
feel
know
like
what? That's
that's
true. That's
so
true.
wasteful. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's more of the mentality when it could just be fixed very easily. And I know we're not talking about events quite yet. We're almost there, but I could see you having this little sewing kit and busting it out when you're at someone's event because
And
there
I
was a
do
rip or a
and
tear
have.
or a something, right? I
Yes.
remember once, it was not at an event, but my pants like split down the ass crack and I was not wearing underwear, but it was not great. It was not a good look. So anyway,
Yes.
that would have come in handy instead of
Real
immediately
life
sitting down for
had to do
hours.
it. It was when I was doing weddings, actually. We had a couple of the bridesmaids, their dresses were doing really funky things. And it was like we had to cut the padding out of a dress and like mend here and like sew somebody into the dress. So like when I tell you that skill has come in handy in emergency situations, yes, even in events.
I believe it. I believe it. And then how about one book, not your own, everyone should read?
Yeah, I loved the previous book suggestion. I was going to be cliche and just say the Bible. But I looked over at my desk and I actually have The Awe of God here on my desk, which is one that I listen to. This is my new routine for anyone who is interested in like going a little deeper on any book. I normally listen to it first on like Audible. And then if it's like, ooh, this is something I really got to apply, I'll get the book hardcover and like slowly go back through it. That's just how my brain helps me digest and like apply the information. And John Bevere is just dope by itself. But really the context of the book is it's called The Awe of God, so it doesn't scare people away, but it really talks about how in the word you should have like a healthy fear of God. And I think for me reading it, it just puts things in perspective. Like I think oftentimes we can overinflate ourselves and our value and things like that. And I think it just gives me really good perspective to be like, the order of things that I've subscribe to looks like this, and I have to have a healthy fear to make decisions that are right for or aligned with what I say I believe. Like for everyone who is listening, and I'm a respecter of anyone who has different beliefs and things like that, I've always been really big on, are you aligned and are you showing up in the things that you say that you believe? Like, and that's the true test of like, how are you walking this out? How are you living this out? So The Awe of God is definitely helping me kind of shift things, my perspective, and just giving me like, wow, like, okay, it's expanding my mind on the view of like how I fit into things and maybe even how my decisions can be impacted with this healthy fear.
Thank you so much for elaborating on that. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I agree 100%. In the community and our podcast, we talk about creating a spiritual relationship of your own understanding. It's not some sort of strict religious dogma, but it's having an intimate experience, knowing that something that is stronger than you is with you and around you, guiding you and supporting you.
Yeah.
I think for all of us is God, but for someone else, it might be something different, and
Right.
totally supporting that. 110%. Yeah, I love that. And I love that tip on reading books. So most people read a book and put it away and think that it was great, but then we're not applying. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's
Yeah.
learning something. So for all the listeners, take something and then apply it, try it out, get curious, see what awe and wonder it can bring into your life. And then maybe not. Maybe it doesn't work for you, or maybe you shift it or do it a little bit different. But it's actually taking action with what we're receiving, just like messages or downloads or guidance that we receive. It's not just about receiving it and being so excited about it. It's like taking action on it and doing it and walking it out, because that's kind of the scary part. So as we talk about that, let's talk about first attending in-person events. I'd love to hear from each of you. What is one of your favorite in-person events that you've attended, and what made it so great? I know for myself, in-person events were really the catalyst to my personal and professional growth, not only because it built confidence, because I did something by myself, being uncomfortable in this big room where I don't know anybody multiple times, but also the community and collaboration, the learning, the expansion, things that I never even knew were possible, new things in my peripheral. But I'd love to hear from both of you, just what event really expanded you and what made it so great. Bree, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can jump in. I will say the first thing that came to mind was like any event that I am not actually working or doing.
That part? Okay.
Right. But I think if there is an event that I could point to more recently, and Carmen, you have this experience and this is part of our connection point, but I would say the Powerhouse Women event. And the reason why that event was impactful to me is because, one, I wasn't working it. I definitely got to like put my hair down and enjoy but I really love events that have a unique energy in the room, and they're very intentional about connecting people and a feeling of overall community. I love that you talked early on about events and how you can not just go from like it just being a event, but truly an experience. And when you use that word epic, for me, that is an acronym that I utilize when I talk about events, and it's experiences with purpose impacting community. And I
That's
think
so good.
with Powerhouse Women, they do a great job of including all of those elements. And I could totally like break down a whole case study on it, and like how when I think of events, I'm really listening, like looking to see what is the experience like beyond this just being death by PowerPoint, or I just got people in the room and served them some cocktail. Like, how is this an experience? Purpose, like what is the thing that's bringing us together? Like, what is the higher thing that we're all being elevated to as it relates to the event? Impact, when we leave this room or in the room, is there a cause? Is there a call to action? Is there something that is going to shift because we were in this place and community? Are we coming together as a network? Are you finding your person, your biz bestie, like, or are you leaving out and now you're going to be a better member of the community that you serve? I think that for me is the standard for events. So Powerhouse Women, shout out to you guys. We love you and your event.
I love that. Yeah. One of the things that you talked about is the impact and making sure that everybody feels seen. That's something that's really, really big, that there's
Yeah.
no wallflowers. That's something we're really focused on at the Amplify Your Life World Conference. So thank you for sharing that. And then these recommendations, we'll put them in the show notes as well. So if people want to check out Powerhouse Women or the recommendation that Kim gives as well. So want to share with us, Kim, your recommendation?
So I am an extreme extrovert, and so I would say like any in-person event, like I just love, but I am a retreat and or conference junkie. Like I absolutely love the energy around a multi-day experience, like back to that experience, because it just, gosh, there's just something about being able to step away from the everyday, the normal, the busyness. I have 5 kids and I homeschool, and life is busy in my home. And so to be able to step away and to fully immerse myself into learning, into making connections, into feeding off the energy of, I mean, I've never been to a Powerhouse Women event, but like it sounds like amazing, because just that energy, being able to feed off of other people's energy is just, I just love anything in person, but I love being able to check out of my everyday and take all of it in, go back to a hotel room and, pray on it, think through it. Like, okay, God, which parts of this do you want me to go home and apply? Because when I go home, it's going to be real busy when I get back there. I almost have to come up with a game plan on how to apply what I learned, because otherwise I'll go back into my life and I won't. Even back to like, like Bree, you said about reading books. And I actually, when you said that, I thought about the one book I have read 4 times, and I started by doing it on Audible first, then bought the book, and I've gone through it so many times and highlighted it. And it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Such a good book. But that's one of those, like, if I write it down, if I highlight, if I go over it multiple times, it'll sink in for me. Not that it has anything to do with an epic event that I've attended, but I like in-person, multi-day experiences.
Me too. We've hosted multiple retreats across the world in our community for the past since 2021, and hosting those in-person 4-day, 3-night retreats were just so expansive. Not only for the women that attended, but myself. I always tell them, they're like, Carmen, you say it every time. I'm like, this forever changed my life. And it does. Oh my gosh, I
It
can
does.
probably cry right now. But if there's one retreat or event you're looking forward to this year, maybe something that you attended last year, could you give us a recommendation, please? Our listeners always want recommendations.
Ooh. Yeah, so honestly, there is a retreat here in Denver coming up in June that I am going to be attending, part of the Bloom Online Mastermind that I am currently part of. But that retreat will be open to anybody, and it's all about blooming online, growing your business online, things like that. But there'll be workshops and breakouts. And I did one of their retreats this last fall, and it was an amazing, amazing event. So I would for sure say that one coming up, if you all want to come to Denver, that'd be a good one.
I love Denver. So I'm in Miami Beach and I go to the West Coast often. So Denver's often my stop. If I have to have a layover, I love stopping in Denver. So
Yeah.
cool. You could follow up after, maybe send a link for that so I could include it in the show notes for everyone. One of my, just so everybody knows, one of my intentions this year is to get myself in new rooms. So Friday, I'm excited. I'm going to an in-person event. There's a large church here in Miami called VU Church, and they're doing a one-day women's event. There's going to be about 2,000 women there. It's going to be at the Fillmore in Miami Beach. And so I'm really excited about that. It's the largest faith-based event that I've attended that was primarily around faith versus personal development with faith. This is something that I'm excited about on Friday. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yes, enjoy. That sounds awesome.
I know.
Mhm.
It'll be cool. So, and it's also my husband's birthday, and he bought the ticket for me because he wants me
Oh,
to go for his birthday present. Could you love him anymore? I mean, come on,
That's
seriously.
adorable.
I reminded
adult.
him this morning, like, I've never felt so supported in my life before than now in this very moment. Okay, so let's talk more about events. Enough about that. So tell us why you think in-person events are so magical. What makes them so magical to you, Kim?
Well, I think I touched on it a little bit, but just the energy and the connections with other people for sure. I think being seen, you mentioned like at events, making sure that there's no wallflowers. And I feel like I go into every event looking for the wallflowers. Like I love to go sit next to someone whose eyes light up because someone saw them. Um, it's something I've trained my kids to do in cafeterias, on playgrounds. Like if you see anyone alone, it is your mission to go talk to that. And if they say they don't want to play, then that's fine. You tried. But so as far as what I love about in-person events is just being able to have, someone find their business bestie or their, friend for the weekend or someone that inspires them. It's all about relationship. Like events, in-person events to me are all about building a relationship or connecting someone. Maybe I don't have exactly what you're looking for, but maybe that person over there does. And I know that person and I know you, and I know that it's going to be a good connection. So I'm probably going to introduce you. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that, no wallflowers. So that's really about when you're attending events. What if you're helping host an event or
Mm,
organizing and curating an event? How do you apply that no wallflowers when you're working the event?
mm, that's so good. Okay, let me ask you this. When you say working the event, do you mean like as the event planner or like, because in my job, working the event, like I set up the event often and
Mhm.
plan the event, and I don't actually stay for the event. So that is a little bit harder when I don't even know the guests on the guest list sometimes. Um, if I'm attending an event, I think I kind of already stated like what I would do at an event if I'm attending it. If I'm helping someone else plan an event, um, sometimes like making that just pointing that idea out to them. Some people have never thought about the fact that they're going to have guests there that don't know each other, and oh, that might be a great connection for them. So I like to point out, like, as a tip, hey, the day of the event, don't stress about this or this. Make sure people are talking. Make sure, just kind of give it as a tip for sure.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, especially because as the event host, sometimes what happens is we get so laser focused on maybe we're going to be one of the key speakers or we want to make sure, things are going to be a certain way that we forget to zoom out and really remember like some of those things Bree was talking about with Epic. But we forget some of those things. So having someone that's helping us with the event remind us of that is really huge. How about you, Bree? What makes in-person events so magical?
I think for me, and I'll kind of go in a different direction for Kim to kind of give people more to think about, but I think what sets in-person events apart is it is an immersive experience, right? The way that I get my clients to think about created an experience, and sorry, Carmen, if I'm getting ahead of myself, but for me, an
No, go ahead.
experience involves all five senses. So what are the sights, the touch, the taste, the smell? Like all of the senses are evoked at a live event, positively or negatively, which is why later on we're probably going to talk about how to make it in a positive way, right? But you can remember going into like a stinky cafeteria and it smells like rotten milk, and like you can like, and people are loud and screaming and you're nervous because you're the new kid. Like that is also an experience, right? And not so pleasant. But think about going into these beautiful retreats where things are like laid out perfectly for you. And it's like, there's an up leveling that you feel like, oh, because the atmosphere is a certain way. Now I am rising to walk into this room and maybe my shoulders come down a little bit more and I'm more relaxed. And there's a feeling of safety. Like that's what live events have the power to do. It allows you to really immerse yourself in not just the information that may come forward, but also the tangible experience that people want you to have. Maybe one of those goals is just making you feel valued, making you feel worthy. Like all of this was set up for you so that you feel like you are valuable, so that you feel like you have stepped into this new era for yourself, so that when you leave, you can take that energy with you. And I think that's why I love in-person events. And I mean, the reality is, and it's something that I talk about in my group Epic Select, we talk about like, we are the event every day of our lives. We get to live these experiences. So being really intentional about how do we create these different experiences in our day-to-day is so huge. And there are certain moments in ticketed events where we get to go and have a new experience where someone else has prepared for us. And I think that's really important, and why I'm an advocate for people to get in the room when it's your season to be in the room. Because sis, I completely understand if you are like overloaded and you don't feel like this is your time to like get in the rooms. But Carmen, I love that you said that you're being really intentional about getting in the rooms, because there are big shifts and personal growth, and you learn things about yourself when you are in this immersive experience.
Oh my gosh, I'm like a kid at Christmas because I am overjoyed with energy and enthusiasm. I hope you can hear it in my voice. We just announced that tickets are now on sale for the Amplify Your Life World Conference in September in Bend, Oregon, and I want you to get into this room. Now, why did we create this event? We created this event because time and time and time again, the two biggest challenges and things that held the individuals in my community back from really getting the success that they want, for going after their dreams and goals, were these two things. The first one was, how do I know if this investment is right for me? And being held back by sometimes the investment, the event, or the mastermind, or the coaching program seems so unattainable that it just stopped us in our tracks. And then the second thing being, well, I want to do this, but I want my significant other to come along too. I don't want to outgrow my significant other. I want to do this together. I mean, we're in this life together and I want to do it together. And those two challenges were the things that stopped people from making an investment in themselves, from saying yes to getting themselves in the room, for basically saying yes to stepping in to their God-given vision and dreams and goals and calling and purpose. And now you don't have to consider those things anymore, because with the Amplify Your Life World Conference, you get the best of it all, and your significant other gets to come too. This is not just a female only or a male only event, and it's not just a conference. So when you sign up for the conference, you actually fill out a survey and you get grouped with 20 other amazing individuals that are similar to you. So if you're a beginner, you're not going to be with someone that's so super expert in their area of genius that you feel not confident. And if you're an expert, you're not going to be with someone that's a beginner, because you want to be with other experts, people that are lifting you up. So you get grouped with other like-minded individuals that will challenge you and want to be there to support you, along with a coach. And you meet prior to the event, during the event, and after the event, to make sure that whatever it is that you want to amplify in your life, whether that be your life, your relationships, your health, your business, your career, or anything else that you can think of, maybe it's your faith, that you are able to do that because you have this supportive community. So it's just like getting a coach because you're assigned a coach, it's joining a mastermind, and it's coming to the conference, all for the small price tag of normally what you would just pay for like a 1-day boring in-person conference that you just shove your notes into the drawer with. So find out more. Text me the word Amplify to 503-386-2981, and we will send you over all of the details, or just go to carmenoling.com and you can find it there as well. Here's to amplifying our lives in 2024 together. I love that so much. So you started going down and sharing with how you specifically help hosts create epic experiences, not just events.
Yeah.
Do you want to share with us a few more tips or resources
Sure.
yeah.
And I love that Kim, you kind of started to like differentiate the type of support and things that people can get around events. And one of the ways that we do that is really walk alongside the host, and we're there on site as well. So I love that one of the tips that we get to share with our clients is just being really thoughtful about their community. And I think at an event, I would say you can have information that you want to share. You can share that information, and everybody can go home, and your events would be successful. I think when you make it an experience, you are tailoring the atmosphere, the visuals, the different elements to the people who are coming into the space. And I think that's what makes it different. I think when you can be thoughtful about, my community needs this, or my community would benefit from this, or the people that I am inviting in this room would feel up leveled if I had this element, and it aligns with the goals that you have for your event. That's what takes it up a notch, and that's what makes it an experience. And when I talked about those 5 senses, the way that comes out in a more tangible way is like having a fragrance that you have in the room. A tip for, look, this is a tell-all podcast. One of the tips that I would give for my host is like having a diffuser that sprays like mint, or something that keeps people awake and like kind of perky. You don't want to get like those calming scents, because now you might have people a little sleepy after lunch, right? But that's a scent that you can have in the room that has people more uplifted. Even your taste, like, are you pairing, like, especially if you have like a really nurturing and like you want a whole person concept as it relates to your event, like the foods that you're introducing, like, is it high quality, is it healthy, like, does that align with your brand? Like, those tastes, do those tastes align with your brand? It blows my mind when you have people that are like, yeah, we're gonna have a health conference, and then it's like, so what are you serving people? Coffee and donuts. And I'm like, guys, like, could we have maybe done a little better about aligning the 5 senses to think about the person who's going in there? Touch. That's why you see a lot of times the tangible items that people are getting, whether it's swag bags and the different materials, or the types of chairs, velvet chairs and things like that. Those are all elements that feed into the 5 senses that you can be thoughtful about, because at the end of the day, what sets that event and that experience apart is how thoughtful are you for the people that are coming in? How will they receive? What atmosphere and what feelings are you trying to evoke? and what takeaways are you trying to leave in the impression? Because again, like we all shared, we love live events, but the reason why we love it is because it shifts something. Like it expands our minds. It's a full embodiment of like, hey, when I leave this place, I might not leave the same. And it's those tapping into those senses, I believe, is one way that you can do that and achieve that.
Oh my gosh. If people were not taking notes, they need to rewind and listen to that again. There was so many gems there. One of the big things I heard you say that people often miss out on is aligning with your brand and your values. I know we've specifically talked about food previously because I've gone to events before that do have a health component, and then they're serving lunch, and at lunch they have like scalloped potatoes and some greasy ass meat that nobody wants to eat. I'm like, what is this
Right.
catering food? Where's the good stuff? Like, where's the food that I would actually want to eat? And often I'll just bring my own food. That doesn't feel aligned. But something that you said is it's almost like reverse engineering it. How do you want them to, what feelings do you want them to evoke? What are the takeaways? What is the impression? And then what do I need to do to make that happen? And partnering with someone like you or like Kim in order
Yes.
to bring that out is so important, because what you just did for me was now I can tell you this is what I want. And so what can we create? And then have you help me create that versus me being so stressed about having to do it all. I just know that it's going to be created because you one of you are on the
Yeah.
team. I think is so important. And you also said, what would the people attending or my community benefit? What do they need? And how will they expand? And it's not just what I think, but actually, what is it that they do need? What
Yes.
are they asking for? What is that immediate win that I could give them? So it will open them up then to maybe do the thing that I know that they really need, that they maybe not know that they need as
Yes.
much.
Yes.
So but that immediate win is the same, just like when you're meeting someone for the first time. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Kim, what do you have to add on that? How do you like to look at taking just events and making it experiences for people?
Well, I will tell you that I'm like, Bree took everything. All my notes said like the five senses and what feeling you're trying to evoke with those five senses. Like that was all my notes, but I can't expand. But honestly, I like to do even a lot of combining of some of those senses too. Like, for food, like I love charcuterie, y'all. Like I love me some charcuterie. And how can I make it look pretty and nourish a bit? I mean, charcuterie is not the healthiest thing, but it's also not the worst. It's not the greasiest thing in the world. Um, how can I really like where even the food served is an experience for your sight and an experience for your touch, and like you almost like, I mean, back to like what you had just said, Carmen, like if you get something that's like greasy and heavy and nasty, like when you eat it, your whole body almost shifts. And like your shoulder, like you're like, ugh. Where if you feel like you're eating something elevated, your shoulders go back, you stand up straighter, you like, I don't know, it, all of these things, all of these senses can change the way even you carry yourself into an event. If you're, if you walk into an event in sweatpants, you're going to walk in very differently than if you walk in heels and a cute blazer and cute pair of earrings. Um, so I think back to combining some of these experiences with your five senses, it elevates you walking in, you present yourself differently, and you're going to get something different out of it than if you walked in. And I don't even know how I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say on that
I
one.
love that, Kim. Can I piggyback on what Kim just said, so that, because I want to foot stomp this for listeners, like don't scoot past this. Kim even brought out like how we show up to events, right? Sweatpants versus heels and that type of thing. Because like a tip that I would pair with what Kim was saying is like, you see more hosts giving style guides or like giving the encouragement of like what to show up in and what to wear, that takes away some of that, like, oh, I'm gonna be in the room and I don't know how to show up. But like Kim is saying, it also makes the attendees show up differently, right? So even facilitating a part of building that experience before they get in the room is really huge. So Kim is dropping gems, guys. You just gotta tune into, but I love that pairing too, because you're right. When you're pairing those elements, like you can get creative and you can put that with like pre-experience. You can do that in the room with people. You can do it post-experience, maybe a gift or like something that you have afterwards, like playlists and things that people can curate. So there's so many different ways, like you said, to couple those senses that'll really elevate something.
Yeah, totally. I love a good tangible like activity too. What I mean, it doesn't have to be a craft, but you know what I mean? Like doing something with your hands where you're like, or doing something in a group with people where it's a little bit more immersive and you really like get more, again, just engaging the five senses and getting people to, you're going to give them value in addition to how you're making them feel in the moment. And it just, they're going to walk away being able to apply that later. And it's not just going to be in that moment. They're going to remember the experience. They're going to remember the feeling. They're going to remember the value you gave and be able to apply it in other areas after they leave your event and your experience.
Yeah.
I love all of that. Bree, you said something that I think is really powerful. I remember one of the first in-person events I attended, they played the same song, like walkout song for all the speakers and all the intermission. And so anytime that song comes on, I immediately think of that event and that event host. And I thought, oh, it's the same song. But it has like this like jovial, happy memory for me that I'm excited about. And music is actually really, really powerful. And so curating for me at my retreats and my events, I've already started curating the music for the Amplify Your Life World Conference. It's so powerful. And that playlist, you better believe, is going to be available for everybody to play. And I love what you said about doing something with your hands too, Kim, or an activity. And if there's something that someone can take away to remember that, to replicate that, to bring that back out when there's that moment of self-doubt or whatever it is that might creep in, overwhelm, or just out of alignment with who we know that we want to be, we can pull out that thing and be like, you know what? I remember this moment and I remember how I feel, and I'm going to bring myself back here. And so I think that's so beautiful. So Kim, what kind of questions? So we probably have a number of event hosts listening. And so what kind of questions do you like to ask in order to pull out, like, what are some of these epic experience type things that you're going to be bringing to the event? But what are some of the questions that you actually ask in order to get them thinking in that reverse engineering type way?
I think one of the first questions I ask is really a very simple, just like logistics question, is like, okay, how big of an event? How many people are you hoping to get in this room? Who are you trying to celebrate? What is your purpose behind the event? Is your purpose to try and sell a product? Is your purpose is your purpose self-help? Is your purpose self-development? Is your purpose to network? Like, what is the purpose of your event? What is the outcome you're hoping to get? And then honestly, like, I honestly love, Bree, the whole idea of like when you actually curate events with people, asking them like what is the feeling that they're looking for. I don't know if I've ever asked that question, honestly. And from now on, I absolutely am going to.
Do it. Yes, you'll
So
be
good.
surprised what
So,
comes up.
so good. Yes. And I think because in my brain, I know what I feel like it should look like as the event planner, but it's so good to get them thinking about that. And I just had to go back to that because I just love that. But so as far as questions, I ask a lot of logistical questions first. What is the space going to be that you're going to host this event in? Because the space can make, you almost can't plan anything else until you get the space dialed in, but like, yeah, those kinds of logistical questions and the feeling you want people to have. I really love those.
Mm-hmm. Any additional ones that you'd add, Bree?
Yeah, I think for me, there's two that come to mind, and this is where, Kim, I might go a little rogue. It's fine. I love to ask, what's the goal? And you kind of hit on that, especially We primarily work with B2B, so business to business. So these are coaches, authors, speakers, and a lot of times we talk about what is your true call to action? Like, are you selling a book? Are you going to try and enroll in a program? Because that structuring of that event looks different than if the event is the thing, right? If the event is the experience and you're just really going to just say, yay, come back next year, right? That's a different kind of flow, and that's a different kind of how you would want to organize that and reverse engineer that, because you also want to prepare people to receive the solution that you're going to position for them. So that's a whole tangent we can have, but that what is the goal is one thing that I would have. And then let's talk about the uncomfortable elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about when it comes to events: money. Listen, we have to be more transparent about money, because and talking goals and money is really important, because I am the person that when I hear what is on people's hearts, when they have this big goal, when they want to have people feel a certain way, I am the first person to say, okay, if your finances do not support what you have seen done out here, you can still accomplish your goal, but let's get creative. And I think people don't want to hear that. People want to hear like, yes, I can have the 400-person event with the beautiful backdrop and the lighting and AV team and like the plush sofas, and that's beautiful and it's Instagrammable. However, will that truly move the needle to hit the goal that you actually have? Because how often do you hear people say, I want my event to be profitable? There's a concept, right? I get that there are sunk costs, and I get that we can categorize events in your marketing budget, and that's a beautiful thing when you have the margin to do that. But for a lot of people, I don't want to neglect the people who are just starting out, who maybe don't have as much of a financial runway, and hear this conversation around events and feel like you can't start or have an event. Maybe your version of starting where you are is inviting people to a park, which is free, and you creating an experience in that park. Maybe it's inviting people to a brunch where they pay for their own food. Stop feeding people all the time. Like, where they pay for their own food, but you have curated every other element and you're able to pour into them in that way. I think when we can start talking about goals, we can talk about finances, and we can be honest with ourselves and where we are, then we can better reverse engineer what we're trying to accomplish with our events. Because I think in recent years, I've seen events become definitely an aspirational thing for people to do. But I also feel like that barrier to entry seems so steep when people are like, these are tens of thousands of dollars that are put into these events. Well, I don't have that right now to lose. And I would just encourage people, when you start thinking about your goals and you start thinking about your finances, that you also consider that there are creative solutions where you can start right where you are and make the impact that you want to make right where you are.
Mic drop moment right there. 110%, because we don't have to do it just because that's how someone else is doing it. We can
Correct.
start with what we have. I hosted my first event. I told this story the other day on a podcast interview I was on. So I was so excited to host my first all-day event for women a number of years ago. Let's say, like, what year was this? I think it was like 2015, maybe something like that. And so I found this beautiful loft area that was open and exposed brick, and I could get like 50, 75 people in there. And I was so excited. And then they sent me the proposal, and I needed to pay $1,500. Now, $1,500 is different than $1,500 what I thought of then. And so I felt like I couldn't make that commitment. I was so uncertain. I hadn't done this before. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have anyone on my team like Bree or Kim really to help me or support me either, because that's a big thing, getting the help that we need and asking for it. So what did I do? I still did it. I partnered with a local yoga studio for free. I brought like 30 people to our yoga studio, and we did it in an evening. It was a 3-hour evening where we did the event. I built my confidence, I built my community, and I started being known for doing events. Then I went to day events, and then last year we bought out a whole boutique hotel in Laguna Beach for a VIP private event. So there is a progression, and just because you go to an event that is very elaborate and the stage production is amazing, that's not how you have to do it when you're starting out. So thank you so much for sharing that, Bree. I really appreciate that so much. So as we're kind of getting to the end of our time, something that I know always comes up are challenges, uncertainty, and things that we just did not plan for. So what is the best way that you tackle that? How do you face that? Kim, do you want to start?
Sure. So honestly, like with a lot of people, like a lot of hosts, event hosts, they're going to go in and be like, well, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And a lot of what I love to tell people is nobody at your event will know if that went wrong. Just so you know, like take a deep breath. If something goes wrong, you're the only, me and you are the only two that know that. And something will go wrong. Levels of wrong can vary. Something can go just a little bit wrong. Something can go pretty catastrophic. We hope that never happens, but it does sometimes. But no one's going to know for the most part, unless it's catastrophic, of course. But that's what I like to tell people at first, is that something will probably not go the way you planned, even if it's something small. So that's okay. When something doesn't go wrong, roll with it, make it fun, make it funny. Like, you can tell your guests or not. You can tell your guests and be like, well, that was not what I planned. Or you can just go on to the next thing and move on. And no, so I would say just being able to go into it with the right expectations that something might go wrong and that it is not the end of the world if it does, is the best way I try and handle stuff like that, is to go into it thinking that it might happen and it's okay, rather than setting this bar so high that nothing's going to go wrong and it's going to be this and this. And sometimes wrong is relative too. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe something doesn't go as expected, but something not going as expected is not bad necessarily. Sometimes that's just the way it was supposed to happen. That's the way God intended for that event to turn out. So hard or difficult things that come up don't equal the same thing as bad. That it's not necessarily bad if something goes unplanned. So I think that just going into things, like, that's how I like to look at things not going as planned, because it just makes it not as awful when it happens, I guess.
Yeah, I love that advice because no one really knows. You're the only one, and we're always
Yeah.
the deepest, hardest critic on ourselves. And
Yes.
so just remembering that nobody knows. And I always like to keep the just the idea of it's always going to be this or something better. And so if it doesn't go as planned, really lean into this is going to be even better than what we have planned, because it's about the energy and the expectation that you bring into it as well, and what you're going to get in return. Bree, do you have something that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I have two things that I'll add, and that is preparation. So within preparation, there are two little sub thoughts that I have. One, talking about money, guys. Yep, we're talking about it again. Take a deep breath. But having a contingency in your budget in case things go wrong. Now, there are some things, I love how Kim said, there are some things that may go awry that you're like, you know what, we're rolling with it. It's just not going to happen. But I know that's harder to hear if you're the type of person when you're like, well, that was my priority one, and now I can't make it happen. Having contingency in your budget, money put aside, let's call it like 10% of your overall budget that you can pull from and you can make it happen, it is an option for you to consider and a way for you to prepare. Another thing that goes under preparation is a practice that we do is called red teaming. And this is kind of a military term when they're planning meetings or battles, but red teaming is something that you can do. So lean in, guys. This is like a secret that you can totally do. Just get you a friend or your spouse or what have you, and literally think step by step what happens at your event. And when I say step by step, I mean my person who is coming to my event just clicked the button and bought their ticket. Now what? Like, do they get an
Mm.
email? Do they get
Mhm.
do they get notifications? How many notifications do they get? Or even my person just landed from the airport and they just showed at the hotel. Now what? Do they know where they go? Is there signage? Who's greeting them? What's, how do they register? How do they get involved with the activity? Like really thinking through, okay, and then this speaker talks, and do they have a walk-up song or do they not have a walk-up song? Or does my DJ know that everybody has different walk-up song? Is everybody speaking with slides? Is nobody speaking with slides? Like you can literally sit there and like act as if like, yes, you have this master plan in your head, but the reality is until you can walk through all of those little baby steps, you can and will miss something. You are less likely when you go through that slower process of no kidding, my person does not know what's supposed to happen. Let me think of it from their perspective and walk it through so that I can figure out if there's something that's missing or something that I can enhance. The last part that I would say, separate of preparation, which Kim, I know you're gonna love this one, support. Events are no small feat, and whether you are hiring a professional like Kim or myself, or you're just getting with your biz bestie and say, I need you to be my support person for the day so that I have capacity to pour out, please get support around your event. I think that is one way to not only help you overcome challenges that come with events, but also help you go through events and host events in a really healthy way. Because oftentimes I'll see people who at the end of the event, their feet are hurting, they're so tired, they've been pouring out, they've been talking, nobody gave them a plate of food to eat, like they're stressed out, everybody's still blowing up their phone trying to put out like as the host, as the person, give yourself permission to stand in that position and hold space for the people that you're inviting and get support, whether that be someone that you outsource to with professional services or your team of people who are going to be like, hey girl, I'm here to remind you who the F you are throughout this event because I see your energy dropping. Or your spouse that's like, honey, I'm just here to hand you your plate of food and some water when I see that you haven't eaten. Or someone else who's just like, hey, I just love you and I just want to be at your event, but I maybe can't pay. So can I volunteer to check people in? Can I volunteer to greet people and be an extension of you when you need to take a break? So support is really huge. And I think that's something that everybody needs, regardless of whatever level that looks like.
I agree with that. I love that because there is a way, while you're supposed to be tired after you serve and give, you don't have to be depleted. You do not
Yes.
have to be depleted, and it's okay to ask for help, and everybody needs help, especially any size event, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people. So thank you so much for both being here. There were so many gems that people can take away, but if someone wants more, how can we work with you and what's the best way to get in touch with you? Kim, how about you?
So Instagram is a good place to lock down with me, but I also specifically for this event, I wrote a little top 8 events to host to grow your business. It's specifically for guests on this podcast. So that'll be in the show notes, a little freebie for anyone who's like, okay, what are the type of events that I can host to grow my business?
I love that. That's going to be so handy. So that will be in the show notes. Everybody can download that and make sure to connect with Kim on Instagram. That will be there as well. And then how about you, Bree?
Yeah, I'd love to hang out on Instagram as well. We're at Bree Carroll Events. Pop in, slide in my DMs, like we can chat. I love to answer questions and just really hear the heart of a lot of people as it relates to their event ideas. Yes, it is really me responding in the DM. So if you have a question or something, we can start the conversation there. And if I think that, we may be a good fit, we can take that on to a call. As of now, we are a by referral only. So if you have heard this conversation and you're like, but I love you, slide in our DMs and we can have that conversation.
Yes, you got like the secret in with Bree Carroll. I love that. And that download of the 8 events to grow your business. I think every business entrepreneur should be downloading that because it's something I talk about all the time is in-person events are the way to really grow your business. And if you're struggling building it online, why not try out an in-person event? So thank you so much, Kim and Bree, for being here. Now, for all the listeners, I want to hear your takeaways. So make sure to tag us with your takeaways. We would love to reshare what you are learning. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. And thank you so much to all the listeners. We are all so grateful, and we will see you next week.